was trying to get it as an Olympic sport.
Olympic yoga?
Yes.
What, do they have like a protractor on your leg going, all right, perfect angle?
Google it, you guys. My dad was a hot air balloon pilot, so I used to, at age 2, be up in the balloon. So it's like I was never fearful of heights. And maybe that's why I resonated with it, because I was a gymnast and that was very comfortable to me being up on a stage. And
True.
But I was also a circus performer.
What?
Yeah.
And it's a statement piece.
It is a statement.
Everyone wants to stroke the furry wall.
That's right.
So
yeah, you don't have to cut the fur, so that's kind of no trimming involved.
It did look like we murdered a dog though when we put it up, because it was just like the amount of fur falling off. Yeah. It was pretty bad. Yeah. But Peter didn't call us, so we're all good.
Okay,
we're good. So, thank you for coming on, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is your first podcast?
No, this is probably my third.
Oh, cool. You're one of the rare ones in Southwest Florida.
Really?
Most people are like, it's my first. I don't know what to expect.
Oh.
So yeah.
I'm not a virgin. I've done podcasts before.
That's cool. I like that. It's yeah. Have quickly say a few things into there.
Test 1, 2, 3. Betsy Opyt.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'm just a lot louder than you are.
Oh,
apparently.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So, for anyone who's not familiar with Betsy, how do you pronounce your last name?
Opyt.
Opyt.
Yes.
What
it's
Polish?
Polish. My husband's last name. Mine was Bobel. Not much better. That's German. But his was probably like Opchinetsky, and then they shortened it when they came to the U.S. So
really, was that like a European thing?
I guess. I'm not quite sure.
Seems like a lot of them did that. They changed their last name for whatever reason.
Yeah, and mine just looks like 4 letters just thrown together. Everyone asked how to pronounce it. They're like,
I thought it was like I thought it was like a stage name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it looks like it, like Opyt.
Opyt, yeah.
Opyt?
Opyt.
Yeah. Opyt.
Yeah, I almost say think Brad Pitt, but it's Opyt.
Okay, I get that.
Maybe.
Opyt.
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 Yeah, so the O's long.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So for people who are not aware of Betsy Opyt,
yes.
What is it that you do? A lot of people know you anyway, but for those who don't know you.
Yeah, I've been around town here in Naples for almost 20 years. I'm a registered dietitian. That was my main passion and calling in life. Fell into the yoga world just kind of accidentally. And 15 years ago, I walked into my first Bikram class and was like mesmerized. And lo and behold, I just opened a yoga studio about 1.5 years ago. So I have my nutrition practice and my yoga studio all in one place. A lot of people know me around town as the Nut Butter Girl because I had Betsy's Best for a period of time. So I've had quite an interesting career journey, but really happy with what I'm doing now.
Yeah, your location is fantastic.
It's beautiful.
Because the first time I went, Stacey brought me.
Yeah, a yoga nidra class.
That's it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Goddess Gathering.
No, you wouldn't.
But no, it was incredible. Very picturesque, very well put together, but simple, if that makes sense. It didn't feel overdone. How long have you been at that location for?
Let's see, it was last March I had signed the lease, so just a little over a year.
So relatively fresh.
It
And
is.
who's your business partner again?
It's just me.
Oh, who was the lady I met then?
Christina. So she
I
does
see.
the Goddess Gatherings with me. So we co-collaborate together. She has her many skills and talents. And when I first met her and her sound bowls and her singing, I was mesmerized. I mean, it took me and transcended me to another place with meditation just from sound therapy. So of course, the two of us together had a lot of similar passions in regards to women's empowerment groups and gatherings. And I'm like, let's be goddesses and let's set up these goddess events, and so it kind of spun off from there.
And how long have they been going for?
Since January or February. We were trying to think back, which month did we start it? So we've been pretty much holding one a month.
Okay. And so, because all I hear is the excitement from Stacey. I don't really know what's going on with them, but she always comes back super radiant and excited and empowered. I mean, all those buzzwords.
Yes.
For what is the Goddess Gathering for you, and what is your goal with the Goddess Gathering for the women that do come?
Well, let me step back to when I first found this location. I mean, it was like a hidden gem. Like no one knew the second store balcony above Parmesan Pizza in town was like anything spectacular. But when I walked into that space and I saw that this particular room that I could rent for my nutritionist office had a door that would go to the balcony and that I could use and access that balcony, I'm like, this is a gathering place. This place is meant to be something very special because it's outdoors. So you're connected to the elements. You can, see the sunsets because we face the west facing view. And so that was always in my mind that I would create events. And that's just basically what's happened this past year. And I've had broga classes, boy yoga. We serve beer at the end. I've had, sounds of yin classes. And so I've just tried to find, what the community is resonating with. And so when Christina and I were sitting down and, we really wanted to have a space that we could hold a container that was for a small group of women that could feel safe to share and to express and to connect and to collaborate. And so that's really what this has turned into. And so there's a very spiritual ritual into it about, women used to gather for years and years in the past. They'd gather and go down to the water together, collect the water for the camp back at home. And, so there was always these rituals that women would do together, and that's kind of been lost and shifted through time. And so we're wanting to bring the woman back into her own feminine power and feeling beautiful and empowered and, having special gifts that, she's here to bring into the world, not just care for a family or whatever it is. So we're just bringing ourselves back, back home, I guess to say, and really just trying to empower women just to be their best self and to be human beings instead of human doings. I mean, so many of us, not just females, all of the world needs to hear this. It's we need to shift and slow down. COVID was a really good example of that, where some people looked at it as a very negative thing. I was like, hey, it forced you to unplug. We all needed to ground for a bit and kind of slow down. And I know that time period for me, it really shook up my world. And I had a big eye-opening experience. And I remember reading this book, it was April, right after the shutdown all happened. It was called The Surrender Experience. And it was all about letting go of that push. We all push so hard in life to achieve, accomplish, have money, power, fame, travel, all those things. And, when it really comes down to the simplistic matter, all that matters is just being here right now. And that's what I've learned through the yoga practice. And that's what I learned to surrender to. And, things like COVID happen, the world shifts, but you just stay centered and calm and just living with your purpose and passion. So that's why I'm so happy to be back where I am, serving people, working with people, helping them to optimize their health, their longevity, but most importantly from the yoga aspect, because now I spin that even into my nutrition work. It's just learning to slow down, learning to self-heal, to take that time to just be in a quiet space and out of that monkey mind that we all live in. So.
Yeah. And so we'll come back to the Girls Garage in a sec. With COVID, when that hit, because you said, I'm trying to map the timeline out in my head right now. Obviously, COVID 2020, 2021 was when you got that space in Naples. Was there a turning point from Dietitian to that was COVID, that slowing down mechanism that forced you to be like, hey, hold on, maybe I want to try something different? All right, so this is a quick ad break. First one I've done in here, and it's because I finally got a sponsor, and that sponsor is me. A lot of people have been asking me, Blake, what is it you do? They think I do a podcast and that's all I do. But the reality is I actually create content for businesses on social media that will actually build a proper relationship with your audience instead of it just being pretty stuff. Because the reality is I don't do content for you. I do content for your customers. One major thing I've noticed in the Southwest Florida area is that there's a lot of great videographers, cinematographers. There are some great ones around here. But what is missing is the way in which they create that content to communicate with the right audience for your company, whether it's air conditioning, whether it's roofing, it could even be real estate. They're not leading with what is going to interest the customer. Instead, they're leading with what interests the company. The problem is now, though, with that, if you're talking about yourself, you're going to miss out on actually reaching the people that are going to buy your shit. So if you want to find out a little bit more information about how your business can reach the right people, hit the link in the description of this podcast. It'll say skymediahouse.com, or hit me up on Instagram at I'm Blake Doyle. Slide in my DMs and I'll get back to you to show how you can actually reach the right people for your company so that you can build a relationship with the customers and make sales a lot easier, because there's not many people doing it in this area. Let's get back to the show.
Yeah. So what had happened was when I started Betsy's Best about 9 years ago, I was doing both. I was doing Betsy's Best and my nutrition practice, and my Betsy's Best business.
What's Betsy's Best?
You haven't heard of Betsy's Best?
No.
It's the most delicious gourmet nut and seed butter. So it's like an almond butter with cinnamon and chia seeds, and then I added toasted coconut cashew butter, a sunflower seed butter, and then a cashew cardamom butter. And it was sold, we started in a farmer's market. I mean, just schlepping nut butters every Saturday and seeing we could sell like 200 jars in 4 hours. They're like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. It was addictive. Like people in town loved it. And then Whole Foods brought us in that very next year, and then it just exploded. I mean, we were in like 30 some states and, thousands of stores. We were in Kroger's, Whole Foods, Sprouts, like we were nationwide. And so life it shifted for me, and I couldn't do my nutrition practice because I was on the road traveling to trade shows and, schlepping nut butter all across the U.S. So that was the big shift. But then, things change. And, it wasn't a business I dreamt of doing, like, oh, I'm going to one day own a nut butter company. It just happened naturally and organically. And so I'm like, well, it's a route to explore when you're presented with an opportunity. Why not go for it? I'm a hard worker. I'm ambitious. I love obviously nut butter enough to sell it. But it wasn't my passion. So it was just a great shift and opportunity. And so when COVID happened, nobody was really working. I was like, I miss my true calling, and that's when everything just shifted.
Is Betsy's Best still around, or?
So interesting enough, part of the farmer's market story was the little table that was next to me was this friend of mine who taught yoga, Kylie, who made the acai bowls. So have you ever been to the bowl in Naples?
I haven't been to that one specifically.
Okay. She has now 3 locations, but I remember one day we're at the farmer's market. She's like, I wonder what my bowl would taste like if I put your almond butter on it. And it's her best-selling bowl to date. It's the AB&J bowl. And so when I told her I was no longer going to have the company and be making the butter, she's like, what? She's like, my bowls will never be the same. So she still makes the nut butters. So those of you out there listening locally that didn't know that, she private labels them with her logo, and it's the toasted coconut cashew butter and the almond with cinnamon butter, which was our award-winning butter. So those are still being produced and jarred and sold, and she ships nationwide. So to anyone listening that's missing it, I've had people message me and call me from like Chicago, like, I can't find your butters at Kroger's anymore. Like, I'm in withdrawal. Well, you can get them in Naples. So,
So you pulled that business completely. What was that like? Like, what led to that decision?
A lot of changes, shifts. I think the world was telling me it was time. I was gone 2 weeks of every month, pretty much traveling. My daughter, I only have one child, and she's now 14, but at the time she was like 12, 13, and I missed a lot. And I'm like, she only has a few more years of school. I don't want to miss anything more. And it wasn't fulfilling for me. Like, schlepping nut butters around the world was not purpose for me. Like, I love helping people. I love connecting with people. I love my nutrition practice. And that's why I'm just over the moon to be where I am right now, because I'm getting to do it all.
Yeah.
And I still get the travel. Like, I'm hosting yoga retreats all over the world. I have one in Costa Rica coming up. I just returned back from Cancun. I was in Dominican Republic. Next year, I have 4 retreats planned. One of them is in the Maldives.
Ooh.
So if anyone's interested in going, these are, and I don't want to call them just like yoga retreats, because I think that boxes it in too much. I want to call them living retreats. Like, we all deserve to unplug and let go and live, and like go to Costa Rica and go in the rainforest and, go hike a mountain, go swim in the ocean, go to the most beautiful places in the world. And I just want to bring people back to life. So when they come travel with me, it's about living life to your fullest, having fun, whether it's adventure, if that's what you're looking for, if you just want to unplug and lay on the beach all day long. Yeah. You deserve that. I'm just going to take you there and just make that opportunity happen. So that's what my retreats are about.
Interesting. So that's similar to my friend, not to that level of Mykonos. Wait, you said Maldives. Confusing that and Mykonos. Mykonos is fun though.
Oh,
but she did one like that locally, and it was the same thing. It was like, yes, we've got activities, but there's no expectation for you to do them.
Yeah.
It was, sometimes people would be like, yeah, I want to do one thing. I don't feel like it. I was the one that wanted to do everything.
Yeah,
Can't help it. And Stace was glad. We ended up kayaking with gators, which that was an experience.
Here in town, where'd you do that?
No, it was probably like an hour out from here.
Oh, okay.
I don't know exactly.
Okay.
I mean, I can know if Stacey's watching, she's yelling at me going, it was there, obviously. But it's somewhere.
Yeah. Maybe Everglades or wherever. Yeah. I haven't done that yet. I'll have to put that on my to-do list. Yeah, I've been down here 20 years, right? I should be going and swimming with the gators.
I feel like
kayaking.
if you don't do it at the beginning, like, I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't have done it if I didn't, like, this was a friend and she's like, I've got an event. Would you like to come? And I was like, Stacey, look, I mean, at that time, Sienna was probably like 3 or 4 months. And we were fortunate enough that the in-laws were still here so they could look after, because it was an overnight thing. So it was like, worked out well.
Did you sleep in tents?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, I remember seeing that on your Instagram. I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. Where is that? Okay.
So Stacey's like that until she gets there. And then she's like the whole time she's like, we should sleep in the car. I'm like, really? I didn't pay to come sleep in a tent to sleep in a car.
Right?
Like, she always we did that with Vanuatu. Like, she'll tell you this story. It was she was like in love with this idea of the bell tents, and the problem is it's like it was island living, so it's humid, it's hot in that.
Yeah.
And then so we drive around the island and we get to the place. It's beautiful, but we'd already, because long story short, whenever we do holidays, I always say to them, like, we're not allowed to book the holiday at all, except for the flights and the first night at the hotel. But every night after that, you can't book more than 24 hours ahead. So 10 a.m. we'd book wherever we want to stay that night, which works out great because some days you don't want to be in the hotel room.
Yeah.
And so why would I pre-book a $300 a night hotel when it's really just, that's a $300 locker and bed.
Right.
So those days where we're like, all right, we're going to go, we just want to explore. We'd go Google and find, or Expedia, a $20 a night motel. It's nothing flashy.
Yeah.
It's really not enticing, but it's like, it's got a bed.
Right.
And it's got a toilet and that's it. Cool. Leave the bags, boom, drive around.
Yeah.
And then there's some days, and you can't plan this like, oh, in 2 days I'll feel tired and I'll do, like, you just don't know.
Yeah.
But when you wake up in the morning, you're like, all right, I just don't want to do anything. So we'd find that night, all right, for something that's normally $300 a night, because there's no one booked that night, they're like, all right, 160. Great. So we're staying at this beautiful place on the water with kayaks. Our place opens up to the water.
Wow.
For $160. But then tomorrow it's like we're saving money because it's $20 because we want to explore.
Yeah. So
the only night that she pre-planned was this bell tent place. And it turned out on the island of Vanuatu, it was the complete opposite end. And we were just staying at this place called Mystery Island. And we came in and the local was like, hey, like, would you like me to take you through the area? We'll show you our village. I was like, fuck yeah, this is great. We just have to drop our stuff off at the next place. And no joke, if it was a sphere, it was literally the other end of the island to come back. So we drove 2 hours around, dropped our stuff off, 2 hours back to go to this thing.
Oh my goodness.
Then that night we had those mini mokes.
Yeah.
So no windows, barely a front windscreen. And we're driving at night at, 50 miles an hour. So you're just getting hit with 50-mile winds. And we're freezing like this, getting so angry. We get there. We open the tent. There's a spider, like a big spider this big.
I hate spiders. Oh my God. I would not even be able to fall asleep.
Well, we didn't. That was the thing. We literally, so we get there, there's a spider in it at night and there's like 3 cockroaches. Okay. And we're both of us like, nah, we're done. Yeah. So we then booked that $20 hotel, which was the other side again. Because there was nothing, like this was so remote, this place. And so that's when Stacey, like, you're right, that your system works. Anything that we pre-booked was a disaster and everything else was magical.
That's cool. That is the surrender experience. That is literally surrendering to the flow. It will show you where you need to go.
Yeah.
I love traveling like that. I don't like having anything planned, just waking up and going with my day. And I've just kind of adopted that into my life now. And it's just so freeing not to have this this rigid schedule and these limiting things that don't prevent you from just free flowing. So that's awesome.
It's knowing where to have a schedule and where not. Like, I know I'm always figuring out my schedules because, routine helps minimize thinking, which helps execution.
Sure.
But when it comes to a holiday where I don't know what's there for starters, and I mean, the classic, I guess, fears that people have, like, what if everywhere's booked? I'm like, okay, what are the chances that every hotel is going to be like, and again, that's where you get your budget fixed, like on an average level. Like those nights we're staying for $20 a night. All right, if there is a freak occurrence where there's only one hotel left and it's $600 a night, it's like, yeah, that sucks. But I'm like, if I booked from home where it would have been $200-$300 a night, 2 of those nights that I saved for $20, that $600 a night, I'm breaking even. And that's not going to happen as well.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's also like, I mean, there's phones, not a problem. You don't even need roaming. Whenever I fly there, I'll get a local SIM card because it's like, you call, I don't know what you guys call them, but we call them SIM cards.
SIM cards.
Oh, good. Okay, same lingo. But yeah, those are the things where I'm just like, no expectations. And America was the first place that I did that with in 2012. Flew here with, stayed at a mate's house and they're like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. And I ended up, it was the greatest experience ever.
Yeah.
You know, some days I'll be like, I met people at a class and they're like, hey, we're going to go to Red Rock. I was like, okay, let's go.
So you were in Colorado? That was your first state?
That one fell through. This was like where I learned plan enough so that you have the freedom to not find problems because you know you'll find a solution on the way. So my friend, she flew back from Miami and next to her was like the lead guitarist of Pepper. And she was like, oh, he invited us to go to Red Rocks. I was like, awesome, I'm down. Because she asked me, you know when you ask a friend, would you be down?
Yeah.
Kind of expecting them to say no, but you want them to say no. So you're like, all right, I tried.
Yeah.
But I was like, fuck yeah.
And she was like,
she goes, really? I was like, I'm here for one more week, dude.
Right.
Like, I don't know if I'll get the chance to ever go back to Colorado. Sure. And so we looked at flights, too expensive. All right, look at buses. All right, buses basically the same as a flight. So I was like, all right, how about we rent a car and we just, figure it out. And she was like, okay. And I noticed that every time we started mapping out the thing, we would find problems. I'm like, stop thinking. We will figure out, we'll get somewhere. If it's going to take, we know it would be roughly 20 hours. So we have to stay one night. We'll find it, whatever. That was like how it was enough to get there in time. But then it fell through because she got a modeling gig that Monday and the show was on the Sunday. I was like, there's no way we're going to get back for your show, for your gig. So we're like, I go, fuck it. I'm still married. Like this was 3 hours before we went to leave. I go, I'm still married to the idea of doing a road trip. So let's go to San Fran and back in 36 hours. And we ended up just going, all right, just drive north. Oh. And were
you in LA?
Yeah, I was in LA.
Oh, you were in LA.
Sorry,
okay.
yeah.
I thought you were in Miami. I'm like, whoa, that's a long drive.
Yeah, sorry. I missed that vital piece of it.
Okay, yeah. So you still road trip and you went to San Fran and you got to see that. And
and that was one experience though where everything was booked.
Oh.
Where I was like, what are they? Like, apparently it was some rare weekend and everyone, no joke, we called personally 40 different hotels across the span of probably a 1 hour drive. And those 40 helped us by calling probably 3 or so. So like we were like probably called 70 different places.
Wow.
And all of them were fully booked. And it was that one experience. I was like, what are the chances?
Yeah.
That we ended up staying in a RV park in a car, like a little hatchback coupe thing. And, on top of that, they locked the bathrooms. So this poor girl and we had to poop in the bushes.
Oh my gosh.
Which is probably illegal. But I was like, you gave us no options. Right. But it's a cool story and a cool experience,
But that's what I call living life. That you did. I mean, look at these memories you have of just going out there and taking that adventure. And so many people are scared to do that. Sometimes you need a guide to kind of help shake things up. I have so many friends that are just like scared to travel. And like when I went to Cancun just last week, I went by myself. It was a birthday present for myself. My husband's like, I turned 45 and he's like, what do you want for your birthday? And he's like, I'll get you jewelry. I'm like, I don't want jewelry.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty. I love jewelry, but I want adventure. I want to travel. I just want to unplug. I want to go to the beach. So I picked Cancun because I trade for the resort. So I'll come and teach yoga and trade. I get to stay at the resort. It's
That's a good trade.
Sweet. Yeah. I have over 500 different resorts across the world I can travel to and teach.
That's pretty cool.
And I get to do what I love. Teach yoga, and then I get the rest of the day just to enjoy. So it was honestly the best thing I ever did, just to go unplug by myself. I could, do my own thing. I didn't have to do dishes. I didn't have to cook or clean. I just taught class and just just hung out. I went to bed every night at 8, woke up at 4 to just kind of have some quiet time, meditate, watch the sunrise. I had a jacuzzi tub right out on my balcony. So just it was awesome. So I encourage anyone, if they're, scared to travel, even just traveling by yourself, it can be very freeing and just...
And thinking outside the box, because that's what I was saying to someone recently. Some things I want to do, like I'm trying to build not only a life that is financially rewarding. I mean, it's more the goals, and the money is just a numerical indicator. But I was like, I'd rather get paid for the shit I want to do than work my ass off to make the money to buy the shit I want to do, So you're doing that with your yoga, by then outsourcing with like, you're working, but you're not, if that makes sense, which is great. You're like, also you're doing what you love anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it's like, even if it was something you didn't like, the payoff is, all right, I go do a yoga class and now I've got the whole day for free for hotel wise, and you got 500 different hotels
that I can choose across the world. That's something like,
that is cool.
This is why, I'm setting up these retreats, because I'm now traveling, exploring, and finding all these wonderful places and meeting people and all the things to do in each of the towns I go to. And, my philosophy is do what you love and the money comes to you. And I'm never money focused. I'm all passion forward. You'll see when I teach a yoga class or I'm with a client, it's just... I just love what I do. I love connecting with people. I love helping people. And that's like why when I travel, I love it so much, because I meet so many interesting people. Like when I go to the resorts, I get to know the staff members really well. And like every day they're like, hey, Betsy, like we can't wait to see you next time. And I just love meeting people all over the country, because it's like you leave an impression on them when they come into your class and you really touch them with a really soulful yoga class, and they're, really connecting and tapping in. It's like so many of them are like, I'm going to start following you on YouTube and watch some of your yoga videos, and like they really love it. It's like I have this huge family in this whole world. I'm meeting people all over. So that's why I just want to keep traveling, because I love it. I feel like I was built to travel. Like I've had so much experience with my Betsy's Best schlepping, suitcases all across the world with nut butter. But
there's two types of travel.
There's the grind to travel, but then there's the travel where it's just like it's joyful. It's fun. It makes me feel alive. When you travel to new places and you get to explore, and like what you do, you just don't have a map. You just go. You just live it, and you do the things that you've never thought you'd ever get to do. Like I want to go to Peru and do Machu Picchu, and like I'm very active and adventurous.
Yeah, that's on my list
so
too.
like so many different, like Maldives have always been on my list. Bali, Thailand, Japan. Those are some of the places I can do trade with. So I'll be going.
Do Bali. I'm gonna set your expectations low though.
Yeah.
Because that's where Stacey and I met. And
Bali.
Yeah. So, but we tell people like set your expectations low, because I'm all about expectations. My two favorite places in the world that I visited was Budapest, Hungary, and Paris. Mainly because of my expectations. Budapest, zero expectations. Had a good time, beautiful city. Paris, I expected to hate it, because I used to date a Parisian girl, and she said that everyone in Paris is a bunch of snobs. And they probably were, but I couldn't understand them. So because I was going in, going to hate it, I was like, this place is kind of cool. And the way they've built the city, I was like, I really like it. Reverse happened with Bali. You see Bali, same with Stacey, the reverse happened because the expectation is all these beautiful blue water, these beaches. It ain't, like those are the outskirts of Bali, but typically where most people visit is like Canggu and Uluwatu is kind of beautiful. But we were just like, it's fun, but we couldn't wait to leave.
Wow.
Whereas Vanuatu, which is, it's a 3-hour flight from Sydney, so close. That's where we had that tent experience.
Oh, okay.
We fell in love.
Yeah.
It was because one, it was no expectations, but two, it was exactly what you would see on Instagram, but rural life, like white sand, super blue water, still pretty untouched, whereas Bali's like so populated that it's there's a lot of plastic and a lot of, like, depending where you go.
Yeah.
But there's what Vanuatu doesn't have is a culture, whereas Bali kind of does a little bit. So it's like, it's whatever you want to go to get.
Yeah.
But the reason we fell in love with Vanuatu was because we love untouched. You know, like Sydney was the same. If we go to a beach, we'd go an hour and a half north, and like those beaches are untouched. If there was 3 people at the beach, we'd be like, ugh.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's like, I mean, you got 3 people every couple of feet.
Right. I know. I'm tripping over them.
Yeah, but I'd say go because, what's the one that Ubud? I think it's Ubud is north, and that's very strong in the yoga community.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, and Uluwatu is more like the holiday part, but it's beautiful. And Canggu is like all the expats, so it's like it's Bali City.
Yeah. More industrial.
But we can tell you where to go. Avoid.
Okay,
That's
sounds
the big thing.
good.
We
Well,
went into the middle of the terrible part.
Okay, all right. Well, when I schedule my Bali trip, I'll let you know. So
yeah, but so with the goddess thing, we bypassed that. What are the, like, how does it sort of look in terms of what's the experience that you aim to give the women when they go there? What do they get in terms of everything from, I guess, superficial stuff through to emotional stuff?
Yeah, so it's a 2-hour event out on the balcony, and it's always at the sunset time. So we gather, we usually, each one has a different theme. So we started this year with all the chakras. So we would do root chakra, which is more grounding work, letting go, feeling secure and safe. And, you know, we have the safe container where if they want to share things. So we had like a ritual where they write an intention of something they wanted to release on a piece of paper, and then they'd burn it in a flame. Then we have song, because Christina sings, so she would she's a writer too, so she would write a song around the theme. Then we always do a guided meditation to take them into the space where they can actually clear out the thoughts and really bring in intention, or just find the space of quiet that they need. A lot of us just need that. Sometimes we need to be forced to lay down into a meditation to really take that time. Like we had just our last one was the heart chakra. So it's just finding your own self-love. I mean, as women, we're very judgmental and hard on ourselves. We're critiquing. We look in the mirror, we critique, you know. And I think, you know, a lot of times women don't take that time to really self-love and let go of those things that don't matter, and be kind and say kind things and think kind things. So we were focusing a lot on the heart chakra. And Stace was so great to make the cacao, because cacao, oh my gosh, like chocolate. So we did a little cacao ceremony. And so
I
like,
get one every day. It's great.
Yeah, I know. You're lucky, man. Oh, I was like, that's the best recipe I've ever had. So, and then we like to showcase women that come, like their talents. So like we let Stacey had an opportunity to talk a little bit about what she does in the relationship work and her workshops. I actually want to tell her I want to sign up for her workshop.
Okay.
It's coming up soon, right?
She's coming up. Yeah. She's fantastic at it. It's I mean, obviously because they have the bub, she had to put it in the back burner for a bit. But I was like, you know, she's ready to gear up and take it, and like she'll nail it. It's finding that juggling time.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure out like, all right, what's our threshold for getting a babysitter for moments, so that you can really just like take it on, because she kills it. You know. She's got a good heart, and I love her message and what she's bringing forth. I think it's a great space for women. So that's why it's like we wanted to feature her. And so that's what we try to do. We're just empowering women. And so women coming in with their gifts and talents, how can they share that with the rest of the group? And so Christine and I actually were traveling this weekend to a sound healing workshop. So we're learning additional tools for healing through sound and vibration. So we had gone to the first workshop, which taught a lot about the sound bowls and the gongs and how to use them. And this next one we're going to is teaching us how to use things like tuning forks. You actually place the bowls on your body, and certain vibration levels will balance certain chakras. And so I'm sure we're going to be incorporating that into some of the goddess events as well. So I don't know. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, we want to grow this into a bigger thing, a bigger platform beyond just what's on our balcony, because we may be able to reach out to more of a women's audience across the world eventually. So I think a lot of this platform will eventually be online at some point, and people can, you know, tap in and be part of it all in this growing community. Yeah, because the sound stuff's an interesting thing. I know most people just go, it's hooky pooky. Because I don't know it enough yet, but I am a big, like I scientifically even understand the frequencies effect on us, because I've said it on this podcast before, so I apologize to people hearing it again. Like the hemisync stuff where you, different levels of audio and that, like that experience. I think I said it on Lisa's one, so you've probably even heard it as well.
But the fact that you can use different sound waves to alter your state to be half in and out of sleep. I had that weird experience with Jasper. That's also why I don't touch Bluetooth headphones, because my theory is if I can alter how I perceive reality by airwaves going through my ears, just because I can't hear Bluetooth, which is a frequency, if I'm shooting that through my brain, what's happening? And there's a couple of studies now that are coming out where it fucks up your testosterone. It,
doesn't surprise me.
I wouldn't be surprised if it causes cancer or it accelerates anxiety, because it's a high frequency going through your brain.
Yeah.
And your brain is all electrical pulses. Yep. So yeah, I'm waiting for studies to be like, it's not good for you. But with the sound healing, what are the goals of that? Like, is there different ways in which you train? Is it to level people out, or is it to find a certain emotion? What are the parameters you guys use for sound healing? Because it's completely new to me.
Yeah. And I learned a lot in the workshop, and I'm still learning more as I'm diving in, and didn't realize I had such a connection to sound. Like I was just into yoga, the physical body aspect of it. And so Christina kind of really opened my eyes to the sound when I was, hearing her sound bowls. But I grew up in a very musical environment. My dad was a musician. He owned music stores. I hate to say forced, but I had to take piano lessons, and then I was in band, and I'm like, Dad, why do I have to do this? I'm an athlete, Yeah. But there was a reason, and it was funny because as I was going through all my training, that I would play by just sound. I could read the music, but I was better off just understanding it and playing it on my own.
Yeah.
And then when I took voice lessons, they were like, you have perfect pitch. So it's like I had it in me, and I just really never resonated with it at that time. So when I reconnected with it through the vibrational work, I was like, oh my gosh, because I had my first class with Christina, and she played the bowls. It was a Nidra class, and I laid down. I was in another dimension. Yeah. Like, I had never been so relaxed on that mat in my entire life. And I have a high wired brain. Like, I'd say an ADD person. I'm not, but it's just my brain. That's just why I do yoga, is to tame the brain. And it automatically, within just a few minutes, brought me from here to here. And I'm one of those biohackers with your health, where it's like all those little devices like Fitbits and all that. Well, I have an Oura ring.
Yeah.
And
so use a Fitbit. I stay the fuck away from those. I'll explain later.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll explain later.
Yeah. So the Oura ring, I don't know what you feel about that, because maybe it's Bluetooth too, and maybe
anything Bluetooth, I'm away from it, but the Fitbit is a different reason. But continue, sorry.
Okay.
I don't know the Oura ring.
Yeah, so the Oura ring will show your levels of sleep. And so this training I went to over the weekend, the first one for the level 1 masterclass of sound healing, 2 days of full 8 hours, I was immersed in sound. Like, they were playing the gongs. They were showing us how to play all these instruments, the flutes and everything. And I went to bed that night, and I looked at my reading in the morning. I go, holy cow, my HRV, the heart rate variability, was like the highest I've ever seen it. And then my deep sleep was the deepest and longest I had ever had. So I'm like, it's working at that cellular level of really, it's bringing you into that parasympathetic state of rest and restore. And so that's when your body can recover. So I'm like, wow, here just, that was a full day of it, but just even a few hours of it, or an hour of it, or even if you get 30 minutes of it, it instantly takes you into a parasympathetic state, because that frequency and vibration changes that cellular vibration. And they're even showing, there's something on YouTube I was just watching the other day, that you can kill cancer cells with a vibration. So if you find the right frequency that disrupts the cell, that cancer cell can disperse and disappear because of the frequency. So.
I've heard of that. I was hearing something too. Andrew Huberman, don't know if you're familiar with him, super smart neuroscientist. He was talking about, and it was funny, he referenced 30 minutes of Yoga Nidra sounds during the day. He goes, it's the same as like a full-blown sleep, and you'll get up and you're just like ready to go.
Yeah.
And you can just get them off YouTube, and just, again, those ones play those frequencies through your ear. And this is coming from a very decorated neuroscientist who, he has zero time for bullshit. And so to hear him talk about that stuff as well, I was like, all right, because I've done that before, where I have like it's funny, people laugh, a 16-minute nap. Where they're like, how do you do that? I'm like, well, you lie down on a very hard floor, up till 16 minutes is pretty comfortable. After that, you get very uncomfortable. But you've had that little bit of like a all right kick.
Yeah,
I'm ready to go. Reset. That I was also incorporating like blue waves and stuff like that, like purple waves as well. But I want to try out that yoga nidra stuff to see the difference. Yeah,
well, we're going to be adding that back to the balcony soon. Yeah, I've held off on classes for the past 2 months because I've been doing a lot of traveling, and I myself need to unplug. I need to practice 100%. What I preach. So I needed some sand therapy and just need to sit still and kind of really plan what I want to bring back to the balcony this year. And it's the sound. I want to do more sound classes to tap people into this ultra healing experience. They can do it their own at home. You can easily get some tuning forks and a sound bowl, and maybe for a few minutes at night before you go to bed, you just play the bowl for a little bit just to either unwind your mind or get the heart. I love the heart chakra bowl. That's like my favorite. Just you feel that you can.
What's the difference with a heart chakra and the head chakra bowl?
So there's like the throat chakra, heart chakra, crown chakra, root chakra, and then each of the bowls have the sound that resonates with that chakra.
Really?
So if you feel your root chakra, like let's say with COVID, everyone was very ungrounded. I mean, like,
it was very uneasy.
Yeah, it was hard. It was difficult.
I was prepared to kill people if I had to. Like I had that conversation with Stacey. She's like, good to know, Blake, thanks.
Yeah, like, we were unearthed and we needed grounding at that time. And so a root chakra bowl would offer that frequency to feel safe and secure again. So when you get a chakra that becomes unbalanced, all the chakras, it's kind of like this ripple effect. They all become untethered. So sometimes you need to start with the root chakra and work up, or some people, it might be they can't speak their truth, like something's limiting them from saying something. Like I know growing up, I was always holding things back. My dad was German, like my mom was Catholic. And so it's just like, you do everything perfect and you don't talk about things. And it's like, that's holding in the throat chakra, So it's very freeing when you balance your chakras, you feel so aligned. And you can physically balance chakras through movement. That's why yoga can be very balancing for people. But I'm learning now you can do it through sound as well. So the sound, I feel when my husband's like, why is there another box at the door? I've like bought all these bowls and I'm getting all these instruments. You go into my office now. It's like, I love just playing them. It's just fun for me. I just go in, they're very soothing. It doesn't take very long, but you feel good. You feel like this difference when you play the bowls. So yeah, more nidra classes with sound on my balcony.
And so if you're playing them, like, does it affect you, or is it sort of like if you're not able to just fully get yourself into it, it's the power's lost? Is it more beneficial to be played for than play for yourself?
No, both. I mean, anyone in that surrounding vicinity that hears the sound, even my dog's benefiting from it.
Downward dog.
Yeah, right. Downward dog. Like he does. He'll sit there and just like listen to it. I mean, I don't know with their auditory, they can hear much higher pitches, so I don't know how soothing it sounds to him. But like for me, the sounds are just magical. And there's different ways to play the bowls, and you can play them in like an orchestra, or you could just have one bowl and just play it. But the person that's administering the sound is getting just as much benefit as the person that's lying in the meditation. So,
gotcha. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I've done it. Actually, I have done it once. I fell asleep,
and that's a good thing.
I know. It's take it as a compliment. It's like when you get a massager.
Yeah, right.
I'm so sorry. It's like, no, I did my job.
Yeah. Well, that's what was needed. Your body needed to rest. So.
Yeah. And so, besides the Goddess Gathering, what else? What else do you do with that location?
So pretty much I've just been hosting either yoga classes, regular scheduled yoga classes, or other type of events. I might partner with different businesses. So in our suites, we have a few estheticians, we have a chiropractor, we have a woman that does like business coaching. So we have, and another woman that does biofeedback. So once in a while
Biofeedback.
That's all energy work. Yeah. So it's healing your body from like a frequency, basically.
Okay.
So it's a biodynamic or whatever energy frequency that it'll look at your body system. So it'll look at your heart, your liver. It'll look at everything from your chakras to your aura to, every organ system. And it sees if the vibration's off or the frequency is too high or too low. And then through that biofeedback, it will balance it out.
Interesting. So they have like machines that do the frequencies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you get all hooked up. It's fascinating. So when I'm working with a client and they're a really challenging case, and I'm sitting there scratching my head like, I don't really know what is quite wrong with them. Like sometimes I feel like my job is being a detective because it's like I know something's wrong, and I don't like the Band-Aid approach, which is our traditional medical system, our sick care system.
Take this pill.
Yeah, right. I like root cause, like what is going on, what is off in your system, and let's get to the bottom of it and work on that. So if I can't kind of figure out it, then I send them the biofeedback because it'll tell us black and white what is wrong, like what systems are off or unbalanced, and how we can correct that through either lifestyle, nutritional, food or exercise or sound.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things seem to be popping up finally with getting to the root cause. I feel like, it's been like Chinese medicine, everyone's like, ugh, for the longest time. And now it's, I love acupuncture. I love cupping. It sucks about the bruises.
Yeah, right.
It's the worst part.
Yeah.
But I had a guy on recently too, there's ketamine treatment. And that was
That's huge.
Yeah, I'm still like not 100% sold on it. What he said was very interesting. But it's like, it's very similarly aligned to what I do when I meditate. Most people meditate to escape. I meditate to be like, all right, shut off the distractions. Yeah. All right, I'm annoyed. Why? Stacey did this. Hold on. And then like you go deeper and deeper and you're like, wait a minute, I'm pissed off at myself. Yeah. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's even that one's fascinating. But it just seems like, especially in this area, a lot of things are really starting to grow in that area. But also privy to like Lisa's episode, I can also see where like it gets too, it's like with the medical system. What started off as a good thing, the medical system now, like the insurance here is insane.
Yeah.
I was saying that to Stace because we found out what we paid. And I go to Stace, I'm like, if we had a family back home, I would pay literally 20% what I'm paying here. And the deductible is 10% what the deductible is here.
Wow.
And it's the same coverage. It's just wild. I'm like, hold on, you guys must be helping.
Well, there's a lot of sick people. There's a lot of people that are sick and they rely on that sick care system. But you're right. Even the holistic system, it's all about their intention. Are they there to help serve people and really help heal them? Or is it another cash cow? Because so many people are transitioning into that system. So you just got to be really careful about who you select as your provider and, what their true intention is when they're trying to help you heal. Because, and I like Lisa had mentioned this, like we all have the ability to heal our inner selves. Our bodies are amazing machines. We just need to get out of the way. But sometimes we need to be guided on how to do that.
And also take ownership.
Yeah.
There's this big movement where it's like, as soon as you tell someone to take ownership, you're endangering mental health. You're like, what the No, it's like if you're depressed, if you're anxious, that's your body saying, hey, something's not in alignment with me, that it's like it's your responsibility to figure it out. Can you get guidance? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not a badge of honor. You don't suffer from depression. You're depressed because you fucking have no job. You don't have, you stay at home in the dark. You're depressed because get out and do something. And are you going to be 0 to 100 quick? Fuck no.
Yeah.
For me to retrain my brain from super negative, I told Stacey, I'm like, if you knew me 10 years ago, you'd be like, get that guy away from me. And it's a never evolving thing. But it's like, no, it's my responsibility to change how I view it. And it's funny because how I used to view some people speaking to me, even these podcasts still, I'll look back sometimes and I'm like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that thing because I think I really, came across this way. And then I watch it third person, I'm like, oh, that was fine.
Right.
Or the reverse.
We're hard on ourselves. We judge, we do. And it's, you're just speaking your truth. And your intention and what you bring love to the table and the people that you love to communicate with. So never shame that, you're not going to say anything bad. Don't judge it because someone else could look at it and be like, he was right on. I think the same way. Everyone takes it differently. And so, I love with your podcast, there's no agenda. We just come and talk.
Shoot the shit.
Conversation. It's just it's nice that so much is thrown at us as an agenda. I call that program TV. I don't even watch TV anymore. I just turn it off. I just can't stand even the vibration of it. Like
you feel yourself get angry.
Yes.
I noticed that even way before COVID. It was like my parents loved the news. Like I didn't realize how left Australia is, which I got nothing. It's not left or right. I just don't think you should be just one or the other. Because like you go to the in-laws and it's just Fox, and I'm like, I feel like I'm getting told off by these people. Like you know.
Yeah.
But it is funny because I would walk into the house back home in Australia, and they'd have the news on, and you could feel yourself get angry. And I'm like, this isn't healthy.
Yeah.
Like, and you see how that would bleed into our life, where it'd be like, this is happening in the world. And I'm like, all right, but fuck, what do you want me to do about it? You just need to be educated on it. Why?
I know.
Why do I need to know?
My parents say that to me. I'm sorry, parents, if you're watching.
Yeah, but that's what's, and like social media is the same. It's like, and it took me a while to be like, and I have to always ask myself, can I do anything about it? No? Fuck it then. And it's like you have to lean into your selfishness in a way, because that's the only way you can be. I think the only way you can be sane these days is be selfish, but use it the right way. I had this conversation with a business lady who helps, she's called the Business Whisperer. She's going to be on too. But I was saying to her, I'm like, people need to start leaning into their selfishness in the productive way. When you're selfish, like that's what made me more giving. I want people to like me. And the second I got selfish in, like, I mean, I was always selfish. Like, I mean, I want this, I want that, I want this. But people weren't liking me. And I was like, fuck, I want people to like me. All right, what do I have to do? Actually care about what they do. Be interested, have cool stories. Like be someone that they want to be around. I was like, oh, I need to change who I am. So by my selfishness of wanting this thing, it forced me to being more value to other people. But the second it's like, oh, that word selfish is bad. Vanity is a bad word, but I'm like, my healthy habits are because I'm vain. They don't take away vanity. If I self-love myself 100%, I'm fucked because I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not going to eat healthy.
And I agree with you 100%. And it's called self-care because you're just attending to what your body needs. And if you need to feel like you look healthy and you take care of yourself, I mean, that's self-care. And if you want to have others, resonate with you, and that is really what is going to make you feel good. So never shame that. I hate using that word vain because it's really just people taking care of ourselves. And why should we feel selfish taking care of ourselves?
Well, we all care about what we look. Like somewhere along the line, there's doing this thing where it's like someone can be obese and it's like, you're beautiful regardless. It's like, yeah, but you're killing yourself. And if you say like you're healthy, like you're literally killing yourself and you don't realize, you're a fat shamer. It's like, oh, no, hold on.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, again, my healthy journey started when I was a teenager, the classic boy, like, I want to get girls. So it was like, I need a six pack. That's what they want. Like that completely bypassed the personality. I was like, no, they don't care about personality. It's like, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Had to work that out in my 20s. But that's what started my fitness. Like if I went back further, it's like my mom making me swim and do sports and all that. That's really what started it. But what kept it going was my vanity in my mid to late teens. And then it was like, all right, when I turned 21, I was like, well, I want to keep looking this way. All right, maybe ease up on the 2 cheesecakes a week, Blake. Ease up on that. All right. Fix a little bit, like tighten up the way I eat a little bit. Then when I was 24, I was like, well, I can't keep eating like when I was before 21, tighten it up further. And then it became like, all right, again, I want to look like I'm 30 when I'm 45. I want to look like I'm 40 when I'm 60. What do I have to do? And then when I research into it, it's like, it's all the same shit. Minimize inflammation, minimize stress, increase sleep.
Right. Hydration.
Good
nutrients.
And so that, societal negativity where we like to shit all over people who are healthy because they're vain. That's the only reason they're healthy. It's like, well, yeah, they are. But when done right, it leads you down a path of being like, all right, well, I need to, in order for me to keep this going, I need to be really like religious on the right choices.
Yeah.
So it's like, I always say lean into your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Don't have shitty food at the house.
Right. Right.
Know that you're too lazy to get in the car and drive 20 minutes.
All right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, as a dietitian, I agree with that 100%. But I also look at an aspect in my life when I first started into nutrition. I wanted to be a dietitian when I was 13. And I knew that was my calling in life because maybe the same. I was an athlete. I was really concerned about being the best in what I did. But I knew fueling my body with good food, even as a teenager, was that extra edge that I needed to keep myself at a high level. Like, you don't buy this expensive Ferrari sports car and give it cheap gas. Like, you give it premium fuel. And I looked at my body as a sports car. I was like, I'm going to feed it the best. And then I got into my 20s and 30s and, still pushing my body hard, although I wasn't in gymnastics anymore, but I was running. I was just like, I was teaching fitness classes all the time. Like, back then it was like step aerobics, dating myself, and kickboxing, all of that. I mean, I remember I was 8 months pregnant. The day I delivered my daughter, I taught a kickboxing class that morning.
Shit.
Yeah. And I was actually
doing
the class. I was doing the class with them. They're like, you are 8 months pregnant and you're still up there kicking and all that. But I'm like, I had an easy pregnancy because I took care of myself through the whole thing. But it's like my whole life was a push. I was really strict with my diet. And, now that I'm in my 40s and I'm more free flowing through life a little more, I'm like, food is enjoyment too. There's cultural aspects to food. There's holidays when we celebrate food. And so I'm not so strict because 80 to 90% of my life is really healthy. But I don't limit myself from the enjoyment of that piece of cheesecake if I want it. And, like me, it's more feeling happy and loving and securing instead of like, I have to have a perfect 6-pack now. And, it's if I wanted it, I could probably have it again. But to me, it's like, I don't know, everything kind of shifts. Like, and you're in your 30s?
34.
Yeah, and you still look young. You still look like you're in 20s. So
I'll take it.
I know. I love it when I get carded. Everyone says, you look so young. It was so funny. I took my daughter to the Dominican in June, and they're like, oh, your sisters. I'm like, oh my God, she hates that when people say that to me. I know.
So
I'm like, I love it. But it's just that's my reward for taking care of myself since my teenage years. So, I mean, it plays off if you really have a strong foundation. And so, it's all about shifting and taking care of yourself. Self-care. It's not vanity. It's self-care.
Well, the funny thing because I used to be a personal trainer back home. And I would always say to people like, I'm an all or nothing person. I go, how often are you all? So usually they're fuck all is all. Like, they're like, I've never, and I say this to them, I've never met someone who is a high performer who's an all or nothing person, ever. And like, I'm not saying like, yes, if you decide to do your weight loss journey and you want to be a 6-pack and you're 45, now you'd be starting, you got a shitload of like to keep up on. But versus like myself, where I've been super consistent. There's 1 month in my life that I haven't trained for an entire month, and I was in Europe barely eating anything because I was just exploring the whole time. I came back, I looked skinny, but still like I was ripped, but it was like, everyone's like, what happened to your shoulder blades? Like, where'd they go?
Right.
But it's that thing, it's just like, well, no, every single day, it's like just put in a little bit. It's that same thing of compound interest in a way. So for me, if I stopped training for 2 months, I mean, 1, my body would be like, all right, we'll adapt. But 2, if I started training again, I'd be like, oh, thank God, let's go back to normal. Yeah. But I would not say I'm an all or nothing person. I'm just it's consistent.
Consistency. It's a balance.
Yeah.
And it's finding what works for you without pushing too hard. Because I look at everything as longevity living. Like if I kept running like I did in my 20s, I'd have double knee replacement right now. I mean, thank God I walked into that yoga studio and resonated with that, because then I switched from running to yoga and it healed my knees. I don't have any knee issues now. I'm actually in better shape now than I was when I was a gymnast in college. Really? I'm more flexible now. I can do press handstands when I couldn't do press handstands when I was a gymnast. Like I'm stronger in a different way. I'm leaner, more flexible, but stronger. It's strange how, and I pushed, and when I was a gymnast, oh my gosh, in college, 25 hours a week, we were in the gym working out, and then they would make us personal train on top of that with the football coach. So I remember coming home after my first semester, and I walk in for Christmas break, and I'm like, jacked. My mom was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, my clothes don't fit me anymore. I mean, like I was stacked. I had so much muscle because that's what they thought the football coaches thought the gymnasts need muscle like that.
Yeah.
Like, no. But the yoga has just added such a beautiful balance into what was missing in all those years of training in the gym, because I was a personal trainer as well and teaching all the fitness classes. And so that's why I resonate with it so much. And that's why I think everyone needs a little yoga practice and a balance in whatever type of training they're doing, just more stretching. You know, if they're someone like a runner, they need to stretch out those hamstrings and quads. And yeah. So
for your knees, have you heard of knees over toes guy? So you know how it's probably the same when you're in those classes of gymnasts and stuff. It was always like, don't put your knees over your toes.
Oh, yes.
So there's no science that suggests that it's dangerous. It actually is the opposite. And because like with a muscle, your muscles get stronger when they're under tension because it's telling the brain, hey, this needs to be stronger. Yeah. So send more blood to it so it can grow. The same happens with our joints. And they used to be like, don't put pressure on your joints because it's bad. They're finding out now that it's completely wrong, that it's the same rules as your muscles where you need to be making sure that you are putting them under pressure, because then it will send synovial fluid and help with like cartilage and basically just strengthening your actual knee joints. Yeah. And so he's kind of like the guy who's made it real popular. He's in Tampa actually. But my knees haven't ever been problems, thankfully. But I've definitely noticed that since I've started doing his stuff, super strong.
Interesting.
And all it is, it's nothing crazy. It's like, you know, the sleds.
Yeah.
So you pull it, you put a band around your waist and you just pull it. And because when you're walking backwards, your knees deliberately, like they go over your toes anyway. And what happens is it pushes pressure into your knee, because then now you have to push through and you're pushing through and putting all this pressure into your knee that it's telling your brain, hey, send some stuff to, like, send some synovial fluid, send blood to it. This needs to happen. Like, you know, these things need to be working, because when you're walking forwards, when you're running forwards, you're getting sudden pressure, but you're not getting actual like muscle, like resistance. Yeah. That's it. But and also strengthening your shins as well. And what I've noticed is like my knees are so much stronger.
Yeah. Are you a runner?
No, I can't, because I fucked up my ankle.
Oh.
How was I, 25? 9 years ago, I have a video of it. I jumped over a handrail, down a 1-story equivalent drop, which is fine. I've done it many times before. But I just happened to do this one because instead of me normally like I'll run, jump and barrel roll, I went straight up, straight down, because I had to go over the handrail and then down. So because I went straight down, I just landed, and you see my foot go like boom, and then quickly do like roll. Yeah. And I go to stand up because I'm like, that's funny. I mean, skateboarder. And there's like nothing. I'm like, oh no, I screwed it. And so I tore 3 ligaments, a tendon, chipped some bone. I did the exact same thing on my left ankle 7 years prior, but they put it in a cast with my left ankle. And so there was no movement. It healed right. In the right foot, they put in like there's been this movement where they put it in boots now instead of casts. Right. I don't know if I think they're better because the left one healed fine. Yeah. I could be that I was younger, who knows? But the right one was a boot. The problem is when you're someone like me who I'm like, all right, I'll work through it and rehab. Yeah. I never gave it the full amount of time to heal. And so now it's like the ligaments aren't strong enough. So what happens is if I hit about a mile, something kicks in where my calf tightens up. The ligament next to my knee starts getting like it because my, like, you know, there's my joint. It starts tightening this side of the calf, so it pulls in a little bit. And it's like the tiniest bit of rubbing on this ligament and my knee joint that it feels like my knee's about to explode. Oh, wow. And it's like, it doesn't, like, cool, mind over matter, whatever. They can tell you that I can't get past this mind over matter one. Like I was walking once, hiking, and it got cold. Same thing. All that hiking tightened up. I had to get people to carry me because even if I'd move my knee like that, I'm like, I need to stretch this out. Yeah. But we're in the middle of a forest right now and I can't do it. It's not getting, like I need to stretch it out and rest it. Right. So I'm constantly like, I can run for a mile and then I go, all right, done. Stretch for half an hour. Don't run for 2 days.
Yeah. Well, that's good. At
Sucks.
least I know.
I love running.
I know.
Not a lot. I just like running like 15 minutes. I'm happy.
Just that little adrenaline rush you get from it.
Yeah.
So,
It hits different.
It does.
But not extended periods of time.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. No.
Were you much of a runner before?
No, when I stopped gymnastics, I was like, well, I have to find something to do to stay in shape. So running was easy. So I picked it up for a very long time. I was like one of those where I'd run in the morning, run in the night. Like I was every single day. I was like, it was a little intense. So yeah, it wasn't until like, I'm in my mid 30s. And then I was like, my knees are really bothering me now. And I was starting to have more issues, hip and back. And then that's when I found yoga. And then I really got into the hot yoga, and I actually did yoga competitions for a period of time.
Competitions?
So Bikram at the time was trying to start these yoga international.
I'm just imagining it's like, what, you just stretch even more intense? Like, oh, she's very stretched.
Well, he was trying to get it as an Olympic sport. So they had set it up
Olympic yoga?
Yes.
What, do they have like a protractor on your leg going, all right, perfect angle?
Google it, you guys. Google it and look at they are like complete athletes. Like these people that go up on stage, I mean, yes, they look like contortionists and pretzels and they do these incredible things, but it is a skill. A lot of these like balancing postures and ways they get, like they come up into their hands and then they go into a scorpion and then they lower down to their chest and then they like crazy stuff. But it is a discipline. And like when I was training to go to these competitions, I was in the hot room every single day for at least, an hour and a half practice. Sometimes I go into to do a double. I would do advanced classes, which are in there for almost 5 hours, just working on your body. And so I did 2 or 3 of them. I never made it to nationals, but it was just it was a cool experience. And it really helped me deepen my practice. And they still have these competitions going on. I don't know since COVID what's happened to them, but.
What are they? Well, that's probably the safest place because the COVID can't live in that heat.
Yeah.
Probably the safest place. So what do they test? Like gymnastic is obviously like difficulty mixed with choreography.
Right.
What do they do with yoga?
So you have judges, just like a panel of gymnastics, and it's not in a hot room. That's the thing that I hated because I love the heat. You're just like so limber in the heat. So you go up on a stage, a platform, and they have the mat out there, and it's silent, no music, nothing. And you have 2 minutes to showcase your demonstration. So everyone has a set compulsory exercise that they do. So it's usually like 4 or 5 postures. Everyone does the exact same, every single one. And then you get like these 2 advanced postures to showcase some flexibility or strength that you can do. So I would do like peacock or scorpion or something like that. So then they judge you based on your balance, your grace, your focus, if your knee's shaking or your alignment's off or your attention is off or, something like that. So they have a whole scorecard and then they give you a score and that's how
so it's like yoga
it.
Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah. And maybe that's why I resonated with it because I was a gymnast and that was very comfortable to me being up on a stage. But I was also a circus performer.
What?
Yeah. So I have a circus and gymnastics background. So when I came into yoga, I'm like, oh, this is like awesome because it's kind of showcasing a lot of these cool things I got to do growing up. So.
Circus?
Circus.
What did you do? You didn't tame lions.
Yeah, no, I was not the bearded lady either. No, in my special town in Peru, Indiana, where I grew up, it's known as the circus capital of the world. And why that came true is because back when like Barnum and Bailey and the 3 Cool Brothers Circus were traveling around on the trains, they would winter quarter somewhere to train all the circus acts for the summer when they go on tour. So they would they'd home in Peru, Indiana. And so they had these fields back there where they had all the lions and the elephants and the circus performers, and they just all winter long work on their acts. Well, when these trainers began to retire, they retired in Peru, Indiana. And they're like, why don't we start something for the community? And so it started as this like dirt floor arena. And then they started just training the community kids to put on a show. And it just grew into something bigger and bigger. Now we have this 3-ring circus under, a stable tent all year round. And so from age 7 until most kids graduate at 17 or 18, they're involved in this almost like summer camp, I would say, because we'd start in March with tryouts and then we'd have a week-long circus performance. And it's like a show, like lights, and people drive from all over to come to the circus week and go to the circus. So I did flying trapeze at like age 12 and 13.
That is fun. I've done that.
Yeah.
That is fun.
Yeah. Did you go locally here? Because Sarasota has a
No, I did.
I've
done it in Australia because I made friends with people who do like it's called Aerolyze, and I had an idea for my music stuff, which I wanted to incorporate some things, and I did. Like, I mean, I rapped upside down off the back of a guy's shoulders. I wanted to do it off a bar, but I couldn't. But yeah, learned trapeze to a degree. I do like the most advanced thing I got was like you'd hang with the bar behind your back.
Yeah.
And then you swing and then jump out, and you have to quickly rip your arms up and catch the guy in front.
Yeah.
The hardest one though was catching it backwards.
Yeah.
So like coming backwards and then go. Like, because you're going blind, but then when you fall, it's like you just because you can't see where you're falling.
That's exhilarating. Like, I love heights, and maybe that's my dad was a airline or hot air balloon pilot, so I used to at age 2 be up in the balloon. So it's like I was never fearful of heights. So it was just maybe
so
that's
you skydived, I'm guessing.
I haven't done that yet. Yeah, that's on my bucket list. That is one thing I definitely want to do.
Do it this weekend. Go. Just go.
I know there's a place up in North Florida that does it, not far from here, Punta Gorda or somewhere up there. I think
so, because I don't know where the guy who was my personal trainer when I first got here, because I was just like, I'm just gonna pay to meet people to start off with, because that's what you got to do. He's doing it now because he's like taken my lifelong dream. I'm like, fuck you, bro. Because my number one on my list was always like, I just want to base jump. I have this image of me running off a mountain, jumping off and just like, reverse Christ airing it and surviving. And that's just what I want to do.
People do that?
Yeah, base jumping.
Parachute?
No, with a parachute.
Oh, okay.
That's base jumping. It's basically you're jumping off. I watched a documentary on how this guy learned how to base jump in 30 days from never skydiving.
Wow.
It was a lot. Like, it was like 10 jumps in a day to this, and then he built up. There's like hot air balloons, like the 3rd or 4th stage of base jumping. So you jump out of a hot air balloon. But yeah, so my mate's doing that now. So you should go do it. It's fun.
I'm sure it is. Fun. So how many times have you skydived?
I've only been twice.
Okay.
What was interesting was the first one, crazy adrenaline.
Yeah.
The second one, I was all right.
Really?
I was calm as anything. Like, I had a little bit of a moment going, what the fuck am I doing again? Yeah. But I think like I mean, they say adrenaline's on the other side of fear.
Yeah.
So because I was so scared the first one, that adrenaline release was so big, where it was probably like taking a buttload of drugs, because it was so fun. But because I knew, all right, I've done this before, there was a little bit of fear. And also I had like a objective, because the lady that was attached, I was like, I've done this before. What can we do this time? Because that's me. I have to do something different next time. Level up. So she was like, all right, we'll learn how to turn while falling. So because I was focusing on something, there was I wasn't present in terms of, I wasn't present of the falling. I was present in the turning. That all of a sudden she's like, all right, good, now the shoot. I'm like, oh, okay. That was fun.
So how long are you free falling? Is it like a minute, a couple minutes? I mean, I'm sure it goes fast.
We're 14,000 feet, and I don't even think it's a minute. I think it's like 40 seconds.
Oh, wow. It goes real quick.
Yeah, well, you got to think you're falling 9 meters a second squared, whatever that means. But it's fast. But you got to do it.
Yeah, I will.
That adrenaline dump.
Yep.
Why haven't you yet?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I guess I just haven't made space to say, hey, I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
Like now you're like bringing this back to my attention that this is something I have to do. So
you've got to. I want Stacey to do it so bad, but she's just like, why? Like, she has zero. Like, it's not even like I want to one day. I'm just scared. It's like, why would I do that? I'm like, all right, well, fuck, I can't. Yeah. I'm not going to change her mind.
Well, I think if I'm going to do it, I don't want to do it here in Florida. I'm going to pick somewhere really cool, really special, like with a beautiful surround, like maybe out west or in Colorado or somewhere.
Somewhere with good safety, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think like South America, but then straight away I think safety isn't a little bit loose there.
Right. Yeah, like when you go bungee jumping, you want to make sure you're going into place.
We'll see that. I won't bungee jump.
No?
That one I won't do. Mainly just because, I don't know, it doesn't feel as safe. And I know a lot of problems that come from it too. I'd rather just jump. I don't know. I feel like if there's a risk of dying, I'd rather fall for 14,000 feet than just, 200.
Right.
I'm like, at least enjoy, have a bit more time to enjoy the fall.
Right. Enjoy the view or whatever.
Yeah. But it's wild too. Take away the wind of skydiving, I don't think it would hit as much because the wind gives you perspective of the speed. The ground doesn't, because it's so far away.
Yeah.
That even though the ground is coming at you so fast, it's so far away that the perspective wise, it doesn't change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the wind is just like.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
what gives you like.
You're right. I am falling in the sky.
It was the biggest adrenaline dump I've ever had in my life.
That's cool.
So I highly recommend it.
I will do that
this weekend.
Okay.
I love
Clear
how I find
out my
out.
weekend. Yeah.
You'd be like, all right, Blake, I did it.
We have to connect me with your person in town that does it.
Yeah, I'll find out where he does it. He does it locally. It probably is that Punta Gorda one.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Is that the only one that's around here?
As far as I know, there could be others, but I haven't researched it in a while.
Yeah, I've done them in Australia, over the beach. So Wollongong Beach.
See, now that would be cool. I would do that. Cool. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But the funny thing is like, I think we put a little bit too much pressure on the view. You're so jacked with adrenaline. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, when I'm falling, the only part that was good in terms of like the benefit of that versus the other one, which was Picton, which is in the fields, is that, all right, cool, then I can go and have breakfast at the beach.
Yeah.
That like,
right.
The view doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, that's probably true.
The view it's going to be amazing regardless of what it is.
Yeah, true.
It was more just post, jump. It was like, all right, great, now let's go.
Now what to do.
Have some bacon and eggs and look out at the beach and then go to the beach after.
Yeah.
That was the only benefit, really.
Yeah, I get that. Well, one cool thing, though, I mean, with my dad flying hot air balloons, we traveled all over the U.S. doing balloon races and things like that.
Balloon races?
Yeah, so they race balloons.
You guys are all about competing, aren't you? Yoga, you have to compete,
right?
balloon.
I know, right? Yeah, I know. My dad was a balloon pilot for like almost 50 years, and he'd go out to Albuquerque to that big balloon race. They have like 800 balloons.
Wow.
But one year he was invited to a race in Paris. So we flew, I think I was 14, we flew over to Paris. Now that was cool because I've only seen the balloon around, the farm fields in Indiana where I grew up. Paris is a whole different, map. I mean, like the rolling hills, and it was just fantastic and beautiful. I mean, I highly recommend it if you go back to Paris again to do a balloon flight, outside of the city, like in the countryside. But it was magnificent. But it was cool because with these competitions, some of the big ones, they win some pretty cool things. And like out in Albuquerque, there's different races. There were some they put an X and they release the balloons, and the balloons have to try to fly to the X, and then they throw a bean bag. And whoever's the closest to the center of the X wins. Then there's what's called the hare and the hound. So the hare balloon goes. He navigates the airs because each, level of air you go is a different stream. So you'll go different directions. So it's like you can't steer a balloon. You have to go by how high or low you go. So the hare balloon finds a spot, comes down, places an X. Then the other balloons are the hounds, and they have to chase the hare. And then they have to find the same streams to take them to where the X is.
That's really cool.
And then the other type of race they have is where they have these flag poles, and at the top are usually like keys or checks for thousands of dollars, and then the balloons start at one location and have to navigate over to where the flagpoles are. And so when my dad was in Paris, he got to the pole, won the car.
Hey.
Yeah, he's won 2 cars in these races. Yeah, so the one in Paris he didn't keep because he didn't want to have to ship it back to the U.S.
You should have sold it.
So just
flipped it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so it's cool. I mean, the whole ballooning world growing up with that was quite an adventure.
That's a different world. How tall are these poles?
Oh, they're like flagpoles. Like
That's still pretty low.
Yeah, no, it is pretty low.
That's a low
balloon. They would have to come pretty low to the ground.
Yeah, you'd have to duck if they got near you. Like, shit, sorry, bro.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So.
Wow. So there's another thing I've learned. Balloon races. Like, it's funny, now I say it out loud, air balloon races, it's like, I feel like I've heard that before.
Yeah.
But it's never really sunk in.
They have one in Naples, out at the casino. They've been holding
There's a casino here?
Yeah, in Immokalee.
Am I moving this table? I feel like I'm moving this table.
No.
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just imagining it.
Yeah, the Seminole Casino out in Immokalee.
I didn't know we had one.
There is. And they hold a balloon race every season. I can't remember if it's spring or fall, but...
How many balloons?
Oh, see, my dad did go to that one for a few years. It's not a large one. I would say they probably have maybe 15 balloons. I haven't been to that one yet, so it's a little smaller. But the biggest one's the one in Albuquerque with 800 balloons.
That's a lot of balloons.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, they have these special shaped balloons, which like looks like, I don't know, it could be Tony the Tiger or whatever. And they're like these big shaped balloons. Like one of them looks like a house or Alice in Wonderland
That's
or
pretty
whatever.
cool.
Yeah.
When's that event on?
That's always in the fall in October. My dad's going again this year. He's retired from flying because he's, I don't want to say
That'd
he's
be a
too
cool
old,
thing.
but
I'd probably convince the in-laws to go that. My father-in-law would be like, yeah, let's go.
Your daughter would love it. Seeing all those balloons in the sky.
Yeah. Well, October, she'd be 1 by then.
Oh, she's so sweet.
She's a cutie.
She is.
I didn't see him for a week, and when she got back, I was just like, I swear, and I know it's bias, of course, but I'm like, you're getting cuter every day.
Oh, she is.
Because she got a teeth smile now. Because Stace was worried Stace's like, I don't want to get a teeth. It'll make her look weird. I'm like, nah. Because then when she smiles, like, you know, she's gonna have a human face.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny. I've always said to Stace, I'm like, the more she becomes a human, like, I enjoy her more. You know what I mean? Like when they're just a blob, it's like, I love you, but I'm bored.
Yeah. These are the interesting years coming up, like 1 to 3. Like they really start changing, and they do. They become more of a human. Their personality comes out. They start talking, and they're more interactive. Like I love that age.
Yeah. It's way more rewarding. Like, I don't know, like the joy I've had even the last few days since they've been back, it is different because it's like, you know, again, we're all self-indulgent to a degree. When I'm getting acknowledged by my own daughter, even the simplest thing, like when they first learn to smile, you're like, oh, it's about me. It's like, she's probably just smiling in general, bro. Like, but you know, now when she like turns to me and she'll smile and like the teeth smile, you're like, you know, you feel that warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to see that definitely develop, you know?
Yeah.
So it's wild. Yeah, to think, and especially when you look back at the videos of when she was born, I was like, oh, like she was an alien, you know, but she's so cute at the moment, you know? Yeah. But it is funny to see. I'm like, oh, okay, we thought she was cute then, and like now we look back, we're like, oh. And then you see photos of obviously yourself too, and you're like, ugh, I looked like that when I was
yeah,
I was a baby.
I know, we're so hard on ourselves. And it's hard. I have a teenager now, and she just, you know, teenagers are very critical of themselves. You know, you go through this awkward phase, although I don't think she's going through an awkward phase. I went through an awkward phase. I had that unibrow and like really curly frizzy hair. And I'm like, Mom, why didn't you like help me with my hair? Anyways, I'm like, my daughter is so beautiful, but she's just like, no, she won't smile. She doesn't like to smile. She doesn't like her teeth. I'm like, you have beautiful teeth. Like, you know, that's one thing I think with these women's empowerment groups that I want that to like rub off on the younger generation too, to feel more secure about themselves. I mean, we live in a selfie world.
Yeah.
You know, everything looks perfect on a selfie, and like really just learning to love yourself at any age, any stage. You know, there's no awkward stage. Everyone's beautiful. There's beauty in everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I look back when I was 25 and I'm like, yeah. Like, you're just gonna like, I don't know. I think it is what it is, but I mean, the selfie world's an interesting one because, I mean, the internet's just been a magnifying glass for who we were anyway. Everyone thinks they blame the internet. It's like no. Like I remember, you know, before the internet, which I mean, I was still young at that point, but you wouldn't go out and people were like, "How you going?" And they're like, "I'm just really doing it tough." Yeah, like the response was always, I'm great, things are going great, like they're wearing their best clothes, you know, like the difference is now it's like we can do that projection on the phone. So I can do it more often, you know? And so, yeah, I think that's the interesting thing. Like it's like with anything, bullying, it's like, that's the one thing I'm trying to figure out how we teach like Sienna and whoever else we end up having in our family, that it's not real.
Yeah.
And there's also that, like, because one thing I struggled with was I put so much, and again, that's from the selfish part of it. It was like so much about me and people talking about me that I didn't realize. It wasn't until I was like 25 when a psychologist said to me, he goes, who gives a fuck? And the way he said it, I was like, huh. Like everyone had told me that before, but like he just said, who cares? Because you're trying to impress these people who don't care about you. And I was like, Yeah. And the second I stopped trying to impress those people, they were like, hey, Blake's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah, I know. It's like, you don't have to try so hard. It's just you have to be you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And that ability to be enough attached without being attached.
Yeah.
You know, like the outcome and being able to throw it away, but still value it when it is there. That's a hard thing to figure out.
Yeah.
You know? But I don't know how you teach that. It was just something that eventually clicked for me.
I think all of us kind of go through that. And it's that insecurity. I mean, I grew up just very shy. Like, I hated talking to people. Like, I literally, my mom loves to talk. My sister loves to talk. They did all the talking for me. I didn't need to. So when I was like in a room by myself, I'm like, oh my God, what do? I have to talk to someone. I have to make eye contact. Like, it was very challenging for me. And so I had to grow more confidence. I think it's just putting myself out there in situations that were uncomfortable. You know, like I always say in yoga class, get comfortable with the uncomfortable because that's where your growth is. And so if I kept being sheltered and not being in front of people, I would still be shy to this day. But I got involved in pageants. I started doing presentations with my job. And now I love talking. I love presenting. I love to be on camera. I could do commercials and things like that. Like being in front of people, in front of a camera, anything like that, it's like there's a comfort level, but I had to grow into that. And I had to stop caring what other people thought and stop feeling I was being judged. Because I was always in that situation of being judged as a gymnast, as doing pageants, judge. And I had to stop judging myself. I was actually my biggest critic. And when
Which is often the case though.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, because some of us, drive for perfection or whatever it is. And that's a good aspect to have because it does push you to you're excelling at your best ability. And so that is, I look at it as a good asset, but I also look at, I don't need to try that hard. I just need to be happy with what I'm doing because it's fulfilling something. Like for you, it's like, you don't have to try hard for people to love you because you have a personality that's just, it's mesmerizing. People will be attracted to you just because you're being who you are. Yeah,
and if they're not like that, I think that's the hardest part. Like the in-laws are kind of the same. They're a little too worried about what people think. Like the podcast where I had with Sid, where we were talking about our history when we were single. Sex parties, being a stripper, and all this sort of stuff. Stace was like, well, I know that she knew everything anyway, but she's like, you really want to put that out there? And I'm like, if someone listens to that podcast and doesn't want to do business with me because of that podcast, I never wanted to do business with them. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, that if they're that judgmental, I'm going to fuck up somewhere. You know what I mean? Like it's there's no point. Whereas there's a lot of people that it's like, well, you just don't want to rub people the wrong way. I'm like, there's so many people. And the internet now you can connect. Like I don't have to worry about the 10 people in the room. Because I walk outside, I post on the internet, there's thousands of people that are going to see it, And I think there's something as well liberating for other people seeing you just be like, hey, look, I'm gonna screw up. I'm gonna make mistakes. And when I do, I'm gonna go like, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm like, I've learned from it.
Well, you stepped out of people pleasing, and that's a very important step to take. I mean, I was a people pleaser growing up until the point where it's like, I grew thick skin. I'm like, I don't care if they don't like me. I will find my own tribe, and that's it. Your own vibration attracts your own tribe, and you'll see people come in and out of your life for reasons. They're different energy, different thought. Maybe they were there to serve a purpose at one point. You learn a lesson or a value from them, and then you part ways. So really you march to your beat and you just find your tribe, or they'll find you, because now you're just putting it out there. You have a means to communicate to people now and resonate and connect with them. So
what was the thing that you think made you have that people pleasing thing take away? Like you just didn't care anymore? Or
well, that's a good question. I would say that's actually more recent. I mean, it took me a little while, and I would say it was probably a little bit before COVID.
Oh, so really recent.
Really recent. Yeah. I mean, because I still was under that, drive and pushing myself when I was growing that Betsy's Best, because I was trying to be the best-selling nut butter out there, and it's like,
which is it's a noble cause,
right. And I was trying to grow a business, and wearing many hats as a mother and an entrepreneur and just a human being, just trying to keep myself healthy and all that, especially with traveling. But A lot of people say this, you come into your 40s and you really things shift. You look at, you're almost halfway through your life and you're like, am I where I want to be? And do I have to spend so much energy trying to please someone else? It just didn't make sense to me anymore.
Yeah.
It really didn't. And I'm like, I'd rather spend that energy on myself or with my family or doing the traveling I love to do. Like, I don't want to waste energy on things that don't serve me anymore. And I did a lot of cord cutting, a lot of letting go, a lot of shifting, a lot of eye-opening, trying new things and new ways of doing things. And it's just, you'll either resonate with it or you won't.
Yeah.
And so when I stepped away from caring what other people think and trying to please them, and I just go with my own flow, everything just shifted. Like more opportunities came, like the right people came into my life. And it's just like I said, I've never been happier. Like you just come into this place and like I said, just follow your energy and follow your flow. All of it will happen. All of it's been created. You just stick with who you are, what you believe, speak your truth all times with your heart. That's that throat heart chakra. That's why they're right on top of each other. Always speak with love. So
yeah. Because it's whatever you focus on eventually will happen.
Yeah, your focus becomes your reality.
Yeah. But sometimes we don't notice what we're focusing on.
Yeah.
Like you think you're focusing on a goal, but you're focusing more on the reasons why it's going to take longer versus how to make it happen faster. Yeah. I've noticed I've been guilty of that recently. Where it's funny, like when you go like, I need to have this by this, or, I need to accomplish something. Your brain gets real creative, But yes, because there's a few things that come up lately. I was like, all right, how can I get more creative? Because even like as I'm getting close to my goal of one aspect, one pillar, I was like, hold on, and then that screws up this part. It's like, crap. All right, now I'm getting more creative to get that goal while simultaneously not having this thing become problematic, because now I was focusing on two aspects of what I realized. It's that constant reevaluation as well, which is hard.
Yeah.
We get very stuck in our ways. That's why I love like the podcast, creating content. I'm a huge advocate of people need to film themselves because of that thing. Like you don't realize how much bias is happening in your own head. Like sometimes I'll be talking and I'll watch back the podcast. Like I spoke way too much, But again, like even there's other things like with vlogging with Stacey. I'm the one that edits them, and back in Australia, I was like I would see the in between cuts, and I'd go in. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I was so rude to you today. She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, if you don't remember, that's great. But watching it third person, I was like, oh, that was kind of like, what are you doing? And I think that's the best. Watching yourself third person is the most powerful learning tool because it's you realizing something without being told.
Yeah. That's true.
And that's what we do with like our sales team, like the pest control guys. The father-in-law, he's too busy trying to tell them what's working, what's not. And I go, no. Let's just play a few of their calls, and it's no judgment. It's, all right, guys, this is a constructive thing. We're going to have a bunch of calls from all you guys, and you're going to write down what works, what doesn't, and what we can improve and what we need to get rid of. It's less work for me. Yeah. Because I'm not teaching them now. They're learning and they're going, oh, I can't believe I said that. Oh, I see that was why did I jump to that conclusion? I should have done this. And then the more you do that of them evaluating it, and you're just like, I guess it's the same as a therapist.
Right.
And, you'll add on some of the things so they might not have noticed some things. But then the next time they hear a phone call, they will remember what I said because it hasn't been a bombarding of me telling them 10 things they need to change. Yeah. They've noticed 8. I've told them 2, But then you also got to be there to tell them what did work because they're very, depending on who you're talking to, they very quickly start beating themselves up. They're like, oh, I'm doing terrible. I'm like, the other 80% of that call was great. Yeah. You just, again, you're focusing on what didn't work. I'm like, everything else, like, there's a reason that she said yes to the program. Right. Focus on that too. Yeah. So, that third person it's so powerful. But I don't know how we do that. We just need to we need Because if everyone's filming one person, then 50% only get the benefit.
Right. That's true.
But so I'm still fascinated. I know this is backtrack, but the Betsy's Best thing is like, I had no idea about that. Mm-hmm. So what was like, you like 2 weeks away, and you can stop me if this is too personal, like the 2 weeks away from your family every single month. What did you notice that was putting strain on the family? If so, like in what way?
Well, I mean, part of it was a guilt, I guess, for me, like leaving them to just do everything, like clean the house, cook meals. You know, it was a lot on my husband's shoulder, and he's a realtor in town. So like he was busy, and, you know, I missed, I mean, I'm a homebody too. I love to travel, but I also love to be home. And so it was a lot on the road and exploring. It was exhilarating and exciting, but then also I felt tugged because I need to be at home too. And I wanted to be there for my daughter. And I felt, you know, missing that, only having one child, a lot of her youth was just kind of hard. And so her being a senior, I didn't want to, or not a senior, in high school now, I didn't want to miss anything more. And so I don't know. It was just, like I said, there was a whole shift that began to happen, and, you know, traveling around it wasn't as exciting towards the end as I was, you know, I felt a calling to be back home. So
how long was Betsy's Best around for?
I want to say we started in 2011, 2012, kind of in the farmer's market. Mm-hmm. So, and then just right at COVID.
So it's solid 8-9 years.
Yeah.
And how much of that was the traveling?
The traveling really didn't start until we got into a lot of the bigger stores, like when we were having sales meetings with like Kroger's, and or Sprouts. I'd have to travel to the sales meetings, and then we'd set up trade shows, and then I had to fly out to California to do some marketing stuff, and, you know, I was traveling up to Tallahassee to do a commercial, or, you know, it's just lots of little traveling, which was, again, it was fun. I really learned how to build a business, you know, from ground roots up, and met a lot of really cool people and a lot of fun brands along the way. I'd go to these food shows. I mean, and they were the food shows which had all the healthy foods. So, of course, being a dietitian, I'm like walking around the show. Like, I'm like, oh, I know your brand, Dave's Killer Bread. Oh my God. You know, like I get to know the owners and the CEOs and get to hear their story on why they started a company. And, you know, so I learned a lot of the ins and outs of the food biz, and it's a tough world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of competition, especially in the natural, organic, gourmet. I mean, it's one of the fastest growing sectors. And not a lot of businesses survive it, because eventually some of the bigger ones get bought out by the bigger consumer brands like General Mills and all of that. And then
it seems like that's the gameplay for most people with everything now.
Yeah.
Build a business to sell it.
Yeah.
You know?
But then sometimes you lose a lot of the integrity of the food. And the food world's kind of scary too.
That's what's happening with organic now.
Well,
like it happened I don't know if it's Australia. It was like, you know, like the requirement for free range was, I think it started off, it was like 1,500 chickens per acre or hectare, whatever it was. And very quickly it became 15,000. It was like, hold on.
Yeah.
You've just made this 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And it's still got the same label?
Yeah.
Because money.
Yeah, it's all a money game. That's another reason I was kind of done with the industry, because you lose a lot of the integrity, and it all comes down to your profits. And it's really hard when you're doing high end quality ingredients, trying to make a margin when the grocery stores and the distributors are taking a huge cut of it. And like, it's a I hate to say it, it can be a monkey game. It can be a real struggle. And, you know, I don't want to cheapen ingredients and quality, but a lot of companies do.
Well, that was because my friend, that's why the internet's been like this leveling factor. My friend, the reason I went to America that first time, he and his family, like they're serial entrepreneurs. Like they built a company from zero to $250 million. Then they sold that, built a motocross team, sold that, built a filming company, basically what I do. And then now he does a healthcare of like face cream and all this sort of stuff. They got into like the bigger, like our equivalent of not Walmart, but Macy's maybe.
Okay.
They got a Australia-wide deal. And after a year, they pulled it. They're like, it's so much to do. You guys take 50%. And he's like, so now they're purely online. And he goes, our margins are insane. We don't have, like, it's fully private. We don't have to sacrifice anything. It's just us.
Yeah.
And it's like our distribution, like I think there's a big move now with consumer products away from those stores, because they're just like, dude, you guys take so much money from us that we can sell it online for 25% cheaper than we would in the shop and make 30% more money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's maybe Betsy's best. Nah, I'm just kidding. Maybe it's comeback time. No, but yeah, that makes total sense. And especially like when you got all those other people, I guess, pissing in the pot, it would just become, it probably didn't feel like it was yours anymore in a way. I can understand that.
No, I mean, maybe not that so much. I mean, I still call them my babies. I mean, they were the recipes I created in my kitchen for my family, and it just kind of became a nation brand. So, I still love nut butters, and I still sometimes will make batches in my Vitamix at home. But no, I'm like I said, the shift for me has been beautiful, and that experience in life is something I needed, because it's now brought me back as an even stronger entrepreneur and businesswoman, and so
and
as
if you've done it once, you know you can do it again.
Yeah, if I desire to do that,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it was a very fun journey in my life. Yeah, I look back at everything I've experienced in my life, and it's all been beautiful journey that's brought me to where I am today, and who knows what's in the future. I mean, there's a lot of things I'm manifesting and dreaming and really want to build and create. So who's Betsy 2.0? We'll find out.
So with 'cause there's a big movement now with manifesting. I just say focus, like my thing's different. Yeah. I think because manifesting now, and this is my singular opinion, I feel like manifesting has been like kind of tainted now. Where it becomes like, I mean, most people that I hear talk about manifesting, they're manifesting, but not doing the doing. Like Jim Carrey's famous thing is, you can envision it, but you can't just envision it and then go make a sandwich. Yeah. Because you got to go work.
Yeah.
Hence, like, that's why I say, I'm like, this is what I'm focusing on right now. But what is because everyone has different ways in which they focus or manifest. Do you have like a certain ritual attached to it, or is it more just snuck into your day? Like, how do you?
It's like daily affirmation journaling and taking that space to really put myself in that place. Like, I want to start doing more traveling with retreats and bringing people all around the world. And it's like, I'm actually physically visiting those places. Like, I'm taking those steps forward, already mapping out my road on what I'm going to do, what I'm going to build, what are the themes, what I'm going to create. And I'm a very visual, creative person in my mind. I can see things and feel things and feel the energy of it.
Sorry about that. Some of the tables, the chairs coming off your arm.
Oh, is it? Oh, you're right. Interesting. It's shedding.
It's shedding.
Shedding. Yeah.
So sorry. So yeah.
No. It's
so
okay.
you physically go to the places as well.
Yeah.
I've heard that one's really effective. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. That makes sense. I need to go sit in front of big houses. Actually, the funny thing is, we went to a big house once and I realized how inconvenient it was. I was like, man, sometimes luxury is inconvenient.
I don't want a big house. I want a tiny home. Yeah. Simple.
That's
the clean.
I think the best part about big houses for me is visiting it. Because I'm just like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah. And then I do the math of the effectiveness of it. Like, we looked at one on Fort Myers Beach once. It's like, I think it was $5 million was the asking price. It was huge. It had a 10-seater indoor 10-seater indoor cinema, a gymnasium, like an 80-foot gymnasium on the bottom floor, masters up the top. And I'm like even like this room was half of the walk-in wardrobe. Yeah. I was like, one, who has that much clothes? Right. But two, I was like, could you imagine in the morning, it's like, I go downstairs to leave, and I've left my keys upstairs. Right. Like, that's like a 5-minute round trip just to get my keys again. Yeah. I'd be so angry. Like, I think I'd love moments of it, but there'd be so many micro bits of first world problem anger. Yeah. Where it's like, oh fuck, I left that in the kitchen. Yeah. Or, when you forget something and you don't know where you left it last. Right. Could you imagine walking through a 7,500 square foot house and you're like, maybe it's in the bedroom, and you're looking around the bedroom, you're like, and then you're like, all right, maybe the kitchen's like 3 minutes that way.
It's like a 30-minute process finding your
You would need
keys.
such stringent
that's true.
systems.
Yeah.
So it was, and again, I think that's like, I guess with the story of like your Betsy's Best, you achieved it to know that it was like, oh, this isn't what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people that don't achieve certain things, like I've said, people need to make money to realize that the money isn't the thing that makes them happy.
Yeah.
You know, like I love the quest. The money is like, all right, cool. This month I'm making this much. With that, I can do this piece of the puzzle and that. Like it's just like I'm collecting jigsaw pieces.
Yeah.
That again, when we went to this giant house, and I still have an ongoing joke is like, I don't want to buy a house if it doesn't have an indoor cinema, because I just want to invite people over and be like, don't worry, we'll go to the cinemas here.
Right.
But other than that, I'm like, even just walking through that house was enough for me to be like, this is kind of inconvenient, you know? And so, but I, if I didn't walk through it and experience it, I would always be like, that's my goal.
Yeah.
This dream big house.
That's why like you have to sit in your visualization and make it feel real until it resonates with you, and then it happens. And I find that lately, as the more I'm focusing and visualizing, and when I get there, I know I've arrived because I've already visualized it. I've already created it, you know? And so then you know it's right.
Yeah.
You know, and you just look around, there's signs and symbols everywhere showing you're on the right path. And I've seen that more now than ever. And so it's why I'm so happy where I am right now, because it's where I've been planning to be. This is exactly what I've dreamt of doing when I was a child. And I always knew I would incorporate fitness and wellness and nutrition and travel like all in one. And I'm like, wow, it's happening. I'm here. So
it's good, because it's like you don't. I've been fortunate to meet so many people on this podcast as well that are just doing the thing they want to do. Because you only really hear about people not, you know, like stuck in the grind. That is real cool to hear. But I haven't heard anyone that grew up in the circus and a hot air balloon.
Yeah.
That is unique.
Yeah, it's very unique. I know. I have a very interesting background.
That's cool though. So the last thing I want to ask is, what's the future hold? The immediate future, because the long term, who knows? But the immediate future, what are the goals you've got intact, if you want to share them?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to open up the studio in August. So I'll be having a full program of different classes that I'm going to offering some of these new.
Is this the same location? Or
the 4 Elements yoga studio. Yeah, it's the same outdoor balcony. I mean, that balcony can hold up to like 50 people. So I envision classes just filling up that whole space, you know, because it's taken a little while for people to find I'm in town. And, you know, I had some of my workshops, so it just started to introduce people. But this next year, I'm introducing a lot of different people to the balcony. I like to bring special guests in just for programming. I have a medium coming in that speaks to the other.
Medium.
He comes in, he speaks to the other side. He's phenomenal. He's coming in October. I have a woman coming in.
Is he local? Or?
Yeah, he's from the other coast, Boca.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I met him at an event up in Sarasota, and I was so blown away. And I was like, hey, you want to come to our balcony for a weekend and do some workshops? So he was excited about it. So he's coming. He's really like not HGTV. What's one of those shows that Netflix wanted to do like a series on him.
Really?
Like
Netflix seems to be like circling a lot of people in Florida at the moment.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Florida's just interesting, I think.
Yeah. It's calling a lot of interesting people here. A lot of spiritual healers are being
less
called
Florida
here.
man people though, which is good.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, I envision, you know, my balcony being filled with a lot of fun activities, and then the traveling, the retreats. I have 4 set up for next year. So
really,
yeah.
So we've got Maldives. Where else?
So, well, in March I am taking my daughter on spring break. So, if anyone wants to come to Ixtapa, we're going to Mexico for that to the other coast, because we've already been to the east coast of Mexico.
When was that? Sorry.
So that's March. And then in June we're doing Cancun again. The Secrets there. And then in July, we're doing Jamaica, the Breathless. And then in September, it'll be the Maldives. And then the following year...
Like island hopping, basically.
I am island hopping.
Jeez, living the life, huh?
The following year, I want to plan 6. So like every other month, I'm going somewhere for a week. That's my goal.
Yeah. And do you have a number of people in mind?
I mean, it would be ideal to have around 10 each one. I don't want it huge where you don't feel you have that connection. But like my first few I started, I had like 4. So it was a very small, intimate group, which we had a blast. We were in Costa Rica last year. I love the resort so much. We're going back to the same one, just magical. So I really love Costa Rica. So I'll be doing more there again. But yeah, I have the opportunity to travel to Panama, to Colombia, like even into South America. So yeah, I'll be bouncing around all over. So, and I want to create it so not everyone has the opportunity to travel. I know it can be expensive and hard to take time off of work. So I want to create a virtual format of the retreats as well, so they can join us virtually, at least for the classes and the workshops and some of the fun things we get to do. They can actually feel like they're experiencing it with us. Give them like
complimentary wallpaper of the beach so they can feel like they're there.
Yeah. And then I envision turning a lot of my programs that I do with nutrition and even yoga online, so I'm more virtual. So people can still work with me even as I'm traveling the world and have access. And then, I haven't decided how this is all going to go, but I'd like it to be like if they're signing up for a program and they're doing all the work for their health and making those changes, that their reward is to go on a retreat with me, all expense paid, like to really invest in themselves so they can go and really enjoy the fruits of all their labors and go on a fun retreat. So we'll see. These are some of the ideas I'm bouncing around.
That's pretty cool.
So.
I love that idea. I can already hear, again, if Stacey's listening to this, she'll be like, Blake, we're going.
Yeah, right? Right, yeah.
100%. That's cool. So those are some beautiful places too.
Yeah.
And so 10, are you looking for like 10 women or is it
it's
couples? What is it?
This next retreat in Costa Rica, I have he might be 82-year-old coming with me. Yeah, he's one of my yogas. Oh yeah, he's awesome. He was supposed to go last year and ended up getting sick right before the flight, and so he couldn't make it. So he's going this year. He's committed to it. But all ages, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you want to bring your kids, you can. But I think most people sometimes are wanting a break from the, they want a little getaway. And so couples, I have a lot of couples that will come. So.
And how long are these trips go for?
They vary. Some are a week, some are 5 days, some could be just a weekend. The ones I've planned for next year are over the holiday weekend, so it's easy for people to take off work because they have long weekends.
Gotcha.
So I got Memorial and Labor Day weekend, and then like the spring break week. The Maldives, I forget which holiday.
Spring break in Cancun?
No, spring break is going to be
a wild
stop.
place.
I know, because I'm taking my daughter on this one.
I'm going to find Zen there.
No, we're going to stop. But one of the other reasons I want to do this is because I want my daughter to be worldly and travel as well. Because she's traveled a lot with me through my Betsy's Best. She would come to shows with me and things.
Yeah.
But she's being homeschooled these next few years, and so now we're free to go wherever. And I even told my husband, I'm like, why don't you come with and we'll just rent our house out for a month and we'll just hop from place to place and really travel and immerse in the culture. So that might be a little bit further down the road we do that. But
that's I call it like first world syndrome. And like, especially in America, like, yes, America has a lot that it can improve upon. It also, there's a lot of things at work. And I think we get stuck in, this is coming from obviously an Aussie, but we get stuck in only what's bad. Again, what you focus on.
Right.
For me, I didn't appreciate Australia until I traveled. And that was not until I was like 25, 26, a little bit too late. But, because again, like the whole ecosystem of marketing is show people what they don't have. It doesn't have to be necessarily like the doomsday stuff. Like, do you feel down during the day? Like, it doesn't have to be that. But most people will buy something usually because of a void or of something. They don't buy it because they want the outcome. Like, again, I buy water from a can because it's convenient or whatever, but it's also because I don't want, like, it's more the I don't stuff that motivates me to buy it. That I think until you travel, it's like I only saw, like I grew up, Australian real estate, insane. Like our house now is probably worth $5 million, which is just mind-blowing. Like, they're not these size houses. Like my apartment was $1.1 million for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Wow.
Australia. No, that'd be American conversion, which is, it's wild.
Yeah.
I grew up in the same house, which, I mean, when I was young, it was probably like 1.5, which is still insane, 20 years ago. But if you asked me, because of the talk of how my parents spoke and everything, we're poor, we're doing it tough, we're doing like, yes, it was like they were more like, we can't spend money because that's stupid. But it's not how it was communicated. And so my perception of seeing like MTV Cribs and all this, like, you know, those shows that were like popping and showing how everyone's killing it.
Yeah.
This is why I like the internet. When people shit on the internet, I'm like, it always existed. MTV Cribs, how rappers were like rich and how these actors would live. Like, it was always that.
Yeah.
And because I grew up with that it wasn't until I went around to Europe and stuff. And while I loved Europe, it made me also look at what was great about Australia, you know? So I didn't have to go see third world to appreciate where I lived, but I had to just experience different to appreciate what I had. And that's why, like, same thing I said to Stace, I'm like, I mean, a lot of people I find in America get very siloed, you know, like, and I spoke to one guy in West Virginia once and he goes, I travel all the time. I'm like, oh, really? Where to? Oh, I've been to Miami, California. I'm like, what about outside of Australia? I've been to Mexico. All right, did you go outside of the hotel? No. All right, so you haven't traveled.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like until you experience the real life, I still, you know.
Yeah.
And the children that I see that travel the most, I'm like, holy shit, you're mature.
Yeah.
Like
Very
18-year-olds where I'm just
yeah.
like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they're so far ahead from the other 18-year-olds who haven't traveled.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's the biggest gift you can give your children is the gift of travel. And my parents appreciated that. They're world travelers. They love to travel. And that's why I love to travel. And that's why my daughter loves to travel. You know, they're planning a trip to take her to Paris next year. I'm like, ooh. Yeah, I'm like, I'm going to go on that one with you guys.
She needs to learn French.
Yeah.
The French people would like to pretend they don't speak English.
Yeah, right. I know. She's learning Spanish now. And I'm like, that's why I want to keep taking her to Mexico because I want to make her, that's the best way to learn is immerse them and make them just speak the language with the locals. So
yeah, that's the best way. I keep every time I see like someone who's Hispanic, I'm like, yo aprendo español, pero no muy bien, lo siento. I need to learn. Yeah. Otherwise, it's true. Like, you know, and learning a different language. I don't know, do you speak Spanish?
Poquito.
Okay.
That's about it.
There's something fascinating about learning a language where it makes you appreciate how hard language really is. Everyone's like, they think like you speak to anyone who speaks just English, for example, like, oh, that language is hard. This language is hard. I'm like, do you know how hard English is? You learnt it across, you know, from when you were 3 or 2 or whatever it was, like, I mean, till 20. You just forget that it took you 15 years to learn the language. You know?
True.
But seeing the structures too, where it's like you think that how English is structured, that's how language goes. And then you learn Spanish and it's like, hold on, what? To say like blue shirt, you say shirt blue.
Right.
Like, and other things where you're like, but that makes sense. And then you see like, again, like Chinese. I learned a bit of Chinese before we came here. It makes sense about why they're so good at math. Because the numbers, like the sound for numbers is shorter than our numbers. So it's not that they can calculate faster because of some freak thing. It's just that the numbers are shorter. And because they're shorter, they get to the answer faster. And you're like, what?
Yeah, makes sense. Interesting.
Yeah. And so that's cool what she's learning. How far along is she? Is she like fluent or close?
No, she's probably 2 years in now. So, I mean, she knows words. She can put sentences together. I mean, I think if she really practiced, she would understand more than so when we go to Ixtapa in March.
Where's Ixtapa, sorry?
That's close to Puerto Vallarta.
Where's that?
It's Pacific side of Mexico. So it's kind of like if you look at the country, you know, Cancun's kind of this piece that comes up. It's like straight across on the Pacific side. Totally different view. I've been to Puerto Vallarta a couple times. Very mountainous, where the mountains kind of come right into the coast. So I've not been to Ixtapa. So I'm really excited to go there for the first time. Yeah, so I want to explore that region of Mexico.
Yeah, cool. There's so many places to visit.
There are.
Yeah, so she's good, and when she travels, she'll be able to speak.
Hopefully she can speak for me because I need to learn Spanish next. That's my next goal.
I've always wondered, like, you know, when we see like, you know, obviously parents who don't speak English here and it's like, you know, you see them translate. You're going to be that person in Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, sorry, my mom doesn't speak Spanish.
I know.
All right, mom, you
right?
fossil. Oh, that's funny. But no, cool. I think, what's that? Yeah, that's, wow, okay. That's timing. 2 hours.
Wow.
Time flies, right?
It does
I hope
fly.
it did. Otherwise,
I hope nobody was bored. I hope they were entertained.
If you're still listening, that's awesome. So, so for people wanting to reach you, Betsy, the description, they'll be in the description for the YouTube video and Spotify where you're listening, but so they can audibly hear, how can they best reach out to you?
Yeah. So my website, healthyconceptsconsulting.com. That's for my nutrition. And then my yoga studio is yoga elements.com. And then I'm on Instagram, just Betsy Opyt. I have a YouTube channel, and that's just Betsy Opyt. So you can just Google me and you can see all my pictures of my Betsy's Best stuff. And I still have a lot of recipe videos that are still up. And so you can check it all out. I think there are even some, if you Google my name, you can find some circus stuff there too.
Really? Oh, I got to do that now.
Yeah. And you'll see all my pageant stuff, like Miss Indiana, all that crazy stuff. So.
You're Miss Indiana?
2000, many years ago. Yeah. I walked the stage.
Actually, holy crap.
Yeah.
Wow. Life flies by.
22 years ago. Yeah.
I still remember September 11.
Yeah.
Like I was 13 then. Like that, fuck. Okay, now you made me feel old. Okay. All right, well, thank you for being on. That was fun. And guys, if you're not subscribed, I've got more awesome people like Betsy. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification as well so you get it. Every Monday they come out. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. And till next time. Bye. Thank you.
It was fun.
All righty. That was fun.
Yeah.